I honestly don't know how I would have passed those exams without the method that you guys have created. It just absolutely gave a roadmap and just turns on the light bulbs. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is what we're doing,
Yep.
and it's just a test. You can do this, right?
Exactly.
It minimized the stress of how to do it. How do I
Right.
do this? So
Welcome to another episode of the CPA Exam Experience podcast from Superfast CPA. I'm Logan, and in today's episode, you're going to hear me talking with Mary. Now, Mary has another great story. We only have great stories on this podcast. And she was someone who was at a point in her career where she had been working in accounting for a long time. She was working at a software as a service company at the time. She was ready to pass the CPA exams, and she was ready for it. So she dove in and eventually found Superfast CPA. And she mentions that without Superfast CPA, she probably wouldn't have passed the CPA exams, or at least it would have been much more difficult because she loved the structure and the instructions that Superfast CPA gave. Mary has some great tips and some really cool ideas and strategies. One of the things that she did was she had these giant note cards, basically poster boards, that she would write her notes on, and so she had this wall of notes that she could look at any time in her house, and I thought that was pretty cool. And something that I think a lot of people will be pleased to hear was that she was still able to have time for the things that she liked. She was still able to do Pilates, which is something that she likes to do. She was still able to visit her family. She was still able to watch the shows that she likes. She still was able to have a life even though she was so busy with the exams and with work. So I hope that that can give hope to anybody else who's listening to this, that you can still have a life if you're doing the CPA exams. It doesn't have to be a miserable slog where you study for 4 or 5 hours every night and you don't have any friends and you don't have any social life. There is a way, there's a better way, and you'll hear about that in this episode. Now, before we dive into the episode, I just want to give one more reminder about our Superfast CPA training webinar on superfastcpa.com. That is a free 1-hour webinar where we will teach you the key ingredients to passing the CPA exam so you don't waste months or even years of your time failing exams. It's totally worth your time. Again, it's only 1 hour and it's free, so make sure you check that out after you watch this episode, or maybe go check it out before you even finish this episode. So again, make sure to check out the webinar. With all that said, let's dive into the episode with Mary.
I'm glad to be on the call today with you, Mary. I'm really excited to talk to you. I remember seeing your final post in the forum, so it's going to be awesome talking to you. How are you doing today?
really good. It's Friday. It's a good day,
Awesome.
and my exams are done, so it's
Yep.
always a good day.
I like that. Yep. It's always a good day when you're done with the CPA exams. And I thought I saw, are you in Utah as well?
I am in Utah. Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Where are you calling in from? Like what part of Utah?
I'm in Draper right now. So
Draper.
Draper,
Okay,
Utah,
cool.
south end of Salt
Nice.
Lake.
Nice. Yeah, I'm down in Cedar City. So, but I was like, we're on the same time zone, so I'm pretty sure she's in Utah as well. Um,
Cedar
so
City's nice too. You get
mm,
better weather than I
mhm.
do. So,
I did love it here. So let's kind of just dive into your whole story. So where were you in your life, in your career, when you decided that you wanted to go for the CPA? Like, what were you doing?
I was an accounting manager at SaaS, Software as a Service company, and I had been there for several years and just getting to where I was kind of ready for more in my position and ready to grow more. And I uh, finally had the trifecta of work experience, education, and having a CPA to sign off on my experience. Prior in my career, I had, um, you know, been working in accounting, but I didn't have the opportunity to have a CPA or working under a CPA that could actually sign off. And so I decided that it was my time to go after my CPA, because also at the level where I was at, accounting manager, assistant controller, controller, you're getting into a lot of the arena and jobs. They want you to have your CPA license, and so you can't you can't even consider those or
Mm.
be considered for those unless you have the credential. And so at that point, I talked with my boss and just said, hey, I'd like to go for my CPA. Would you be willing to sign off on my experience and go that route? And because I wanted my company to support me in that
Mhm.
effort. And so, they said yes. And so I then got my Mac. I prior to that, I had my bachelor's in accounting and my MBA. And I decided not to do the accounting emphasis. I was just tired of school and, was working
Mhm.
and, making good money. But then it came back around. So, and I had a decent amount of credits, but I was also, in the time frame of when, to sit you need 120 and to license you need 150.
Mhm.
Obviously,
Yeah.
it's changed now, which is a little bit, sad for me, but I don't regret having my Mac, the actual degree either. So
Mhm.
it's nice. It's a nice credential to have. Um, but I just felt like that gaining my CPA would help me for the rest of my career, right? Have better
Right.
opportunities, better pay, and it's the thing that says, "Hey, I know my stuff," right? So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Okay. You'd been in accounting for years at that point, kind of at the higher level, at the point where you're like, I kind of need the CPA to really stay at this level or go any further.
to go
So
further, yeah, yeah.
what so did you get your master's before you started sitting for the CPA exam, or did you do that at the same time, or what was the timing with all
I
that?
got my Mac first, and then I got my review course, my study program. I went with Wiley, and it got sold to UWorld. Um, but again, I had my employer kind of help with that and for education reimbursement, and then also got an agreement that they would pay for my exams, but only once, right? So, and I was like, dang it, why not?
Well,
So, yeah, but it made it so we had the goal of not having to pay for them myself, right?
yes.
So,
Yeah. So you're saying that they were willing to pay for one exam, like one attempt at each exam. Is that what you're
yes,
saying? Okay.
yes, yes. So, just had that agreement. They paid for the review course, and then they also, just I wanted a company to just fully support me with my license,
Mhm.
right? So
Yes.
renewals, CPE, going through the tests and the review program too. And so that's what I got.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is great,
That is awesome.
if you can get your employer on board with all of that. It's
Yeah.
just it's helpful, right?
Oh, for
Then you don't
sure.
have to worry so much about financing all of it too. So,
Yeah, because it can get expensive. Like it gets really expensive. So you had UWorld and you had that agreement with your company, like they'll pay for each exam. And I know that you passed them 4 for 4, but I'm not sure if that was after some attempts or if it was just first try.
my CPA journey, actually studying for the exam,
Hmm.
started in like mid-year 2023. And I had found the CPA or super fast CPA content and bought it, but I don't know why, like I didn't listen, and I just, I was like, oh, I'll just, I set up my study program on UWorld and, hours of study, and I chose to go with BEC as my first exam, and I studied for like 6 months, but I like went through all the videos and, just kind of use the UWorld platform thinking that, oh yeah, they're going to teach me everything I need to know to be prepared. And as long as I go through this, then I'll be prepared, right?
Mhm.
And in December of 2023, I took the BEC exam and I did fail that exam. So,
Do you remember
um,
what the score was?
I do, but it was low. It was like 58 or so,
Okay.
something like that. But like even like the day I went into the testing center, I just had that feeling. Like I definitely was not confident. And you know, it it just didn't teach me what I needed to know to
Mhm.
be prepared to sit down for that exam, because yeah, it was really, yeah, like the day after Christmas, I got my results, and
Oh man.
I had a a puppy pass away the same day, and it was like yeah,
Just
I was like
that's
the
like the worst day
universe,
ever.
yeah, I'm like the universe sucks, and this just sucks, and you know, yeah, I was like, this is, yeah. Will remember the day after Christmas for a
I'm
while.
I'm sure. Man.
But they also retired the BEC
Yep,
exam
right
at
after
that
that.
point,
Mhm.
and then that content kind of got spread over the rest of the exams, right?
Mhm.
And then they created the emphasis. So, I mean, in hindsight, I was like, oh, I should have chose one that I could retake. But then, it just made me kind of go back to the drawing board and say, what do I need to do to pass these exams, And so I used it as a learning tool for myself
Mhm.
to kind of, but it just, man, it hurts your ego, and you work
Yeah.
so hard for like 6 months at a time, studying for 6 months, and yeah, it just deflated my ego for sure. I was just
Oh
like,
yeah.
wow,
S-
but then I remembered that I had purchased the super fast CPA stuff, and
Right, I wanted to ask about that.
I
Yeah.
went back and looked at it, and I chose I chose to do FAR next, and I used the super fast CPA method, or maybe my adaptation to it, but it was definitely it changed to where, do what matters, and it became clear to me over like the 4 exams what we're really doing, right, is
Mhm.
conditioning ourselves to see those sets of questions, see those testlets all the time, get so used
Mhm.
to it that that's like, when you go in test day, you're not like overwhelmed, because it's just like another day of study, right?
Mhm. Exactly.
Like, and you're conditioning yourself for 2 to 3 hours at a time. So you're getting through, your testlets and your timing, and your TBSs and things like that. But you're teaching yourself to do the exam, right? Over and
Exactly.
over again.
Right.
And the videos from, the UWorld teachers, or the review course, like, I think they could be helpful if you're not getting what you need from
Mhm.
like your self study when you're going through the questions, like the active learning that
Mhm.
you guys talk about. But yeah, it the videos weren't cutting it for
Mhm.
sure,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like the videos aren't going to teach you how to be in that testing environment, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Um, and like I remember on BEC too that the time for the TBSs and just your pacing and things like that, like things were off for me too, right? In that exam, just, yeah, just not being able to finish the exam because you didn't time things right.
Right.
So, um,
So
But
I kind of want to pick some of that apart. So you studied for BEC for 6 months, but you mentioned that you had already purchased Superfast CPA. So what happened there? Like, did
I
you
don't
watch
know.
it or
Like, I think I
okay,
got into the review I think
and just kind of left it behind?
I got in there to the review program. And like I said, I thought that like if I went through
Hmm.
the review course program, that it would prepare me for the exam.
Yep.
Right. And
Okay.
so it was very much like what you guys had talked about. Like if you're the type of person that you need to check the boxes and like
Yeah.
do all of that and be okay with your module telling you you did a good job, like that was how I was, you know. And after I failed that exam, I totally ditched that method. I just totally I got that it wasn't working and that wasn't going to get me there. And you know, and it took me a little bit to get used to the super fast CPA method.
Mhm.
But, you know, then it started clicking, right?
About how long did it take for it to click, would you say?
Uh, Probably a couple of months, you
Okay.
know, like I think the first, the first part of the studying was always a little bit slower for me. So I'll explain what I did. I took the blueprints and I took the different subjects, you know, that they have, and I would put a different subject on the calendar for each weekday. And
Okay.
I would
Hmm.
map that out. And then I would have TBS time on the weekend, right? So each day during the week, I I would read the notes, like the super fast CPA notes. I'd print off the notes. I'd read the section that I had, you know, selected for the day for the multiple choice. I'd read the notes. I'd go into my review course and go to the multiple choice questions and create a set of questions for that day, you know, 10 to 20. Um, and I would go through it that way.
Hmm.
So I'd read the blueprints, I'd read the super fast CPA notes section, and then I would do multiple choice questions. And then as I was doing multiple choice questions, if I got something wrong, I made a note card on it. And
Right.
so, you know, yeah. So it takes a couple of weeks to start getting enough content to do
Hmm.
the TBSs sometimes. So sometimes on the weekend, it wasn't TBSs at first because, you know, I just catch up and make sure I had all my multiple choice questions done and then sometimes start like a review set of multiple choice questions,
Right.
right? Like the first couple of weeks. But you know, after about a month and a half, you're getting through all the subjects, right? And and then the weekday just becomes review of all the subjects, right? And a set of
Hmm.
questions. And I would start increasing the question sets so that I got to the number in the testlet. So I got
Right.
used to seeing testlet one, you know, testlet two.
Yep. You've
And
seen it all before. Yep.
yeah. So you're teaching yourself how to be comfortable with that test that you're going to sit down in front of, right? So, and then on the weekend, I would do 4 to 6 hours of TBSs and, you know, print off little notepacks and kind of go through those and teach myself the different things in the TBSs. I would listen to the audio notes when, you know, like you said, doing the dishes, getting
Hmm.
ready. If I ran errands, I'd listen to the audio notes.
Yep.
If by chance I had to travel and I maybe didn't get as long as a study session in the morning as I wanted, I'd listen to the notes on the way. So I didn't feel like I was getting, you know, like not getting study in that
Hmm.
day. Um, if I was waiting for a doctor appointment, I'd pull up the app and start going through questions on the app, do the little mini quizzes. Um, and then once I got through like all the subjects on the blueprint, as I started reviewing, I actually started making big poster boards.
Oh, okay.
I know there's another person on your podcast that she said she used to do like big poster boards. And like, my whole wall in my apartment was just covered with, little mini note cards, right? But they were poster board sized. And as I was reviewing the things but it was helpful too, because then when I was studying, I would I'd look at the wall. Oh, I have that,
Right.
So it's just like you said, it's like you see it, you write it, you say it, you hear it. Like the more times you can get it into your mind in different capacities. And I'm kind of a visual learner too.
Mm.
And so it was like I could just remember my note card, right? Like,
Right.
or like,
Right.
I know that's on my wall right over here.
Yeah, you could
right?
remember it. You could remember the spot on your wall. That's great. So
No.
so are you saying that, so did you have flashcards and then did you have those big cards as well? Or
Yes, I
was
had
okay,
both.
okay.
I had both because like I said, there's something for me about writing things
Mhm.
too. So, um, I would like to say that I reviewed my note cards more often or more diligently, but I didn't. I just,
Mhm.
like if I got something wrong, even if I had a note card for it before, I make another note card.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's all in what works for you, I think, right?
Mhm.
Like I
Yeah.
think people take the method that you guys give them, and you have your own individual little tweaks that you do, right?
Together.
So
I've always looked at Superfast CPA as like the framework for success, but then, you know, naturally people will kind of gravitate towards certain things that are especially effective for them.
that
Like for
works for them.
me,
Yeah.
I really liked to have, I printed out the review notes physically when I was going through the exams, and I would write my notes on the review notes so
Oh,
that
I
I had,
did that too. I
yeah,
did
so
that
that I
too.
had
Yep.
everything all together, and that was super effective for me. For me personally, that was probably more effective than flashcards, although I did make some flashcards. So yeah, you figure out what works best for you, but you do have to apply the process to be able to figure that out, you know?
Yep. Yep.
And I mean, you've mentioned a lot of different pieces of it, and it sounds like you pretty much took most of it, if not all of it, to heart. So what what was the big change, or what were some of the big changes? You know, you studied for 6 months the first time for BEC and go in and fail, and it's like really awful. And then the next time you go for FAR, what did you change that made it different this time?
Um, I think just my whole study process, right? And even the cram at the end, right?
Hmm.
It just it I also made a dedicated time to do it, and I made it a priority, right? And so
Hmm.
I was a morning studier. Um, so I'd get up at 6 a.m. and sign on to work at 9. Um, and I had to make it a priority too. And doing it in the morning changed things for me too.
Hmm.
So that I knew that it was done, and, it wasn't, it just made it more, I don't know, interactive for me to
Hmm.
where I was more engaged in what I was
Right.
doing too, because it wasn't me watching a stupid video for,
And falling asleep.
right? Like I
Yeah.
had to be actively engaged, and I started just seeing it come together, right? There's a part when you're getting the score in your questions and you're like, yes, yes, like that's it. You can do
Yep.
this,
I've
right?
got it.
Like
Mhm.
there's just that confidence builder that lets you know you can do it. But it's also, I think sometimes we just have to tell ourselves too that you can. and be
Mhm.
willing to accept that you can, right?
Yep.
Like, it's
Don't
like,
hold yourself back.
this is
Right.
just the test, right?
Yep.
Like it is, right? But it just, everything that I did and applying the method the way that you guys gave as a structure just changed my confidence and my ability to feel like I could do it. It
That's
was
awesome.
like, yeah, I'm learning this. I have this. I have this in me. I can do this, right? Like,
Right.
because when you fail an exam, it tells you everything opposite of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And failing the exam taught me a lot too, just also just having good intentions for the test day and considering if it's the best testing center to go to, because they're not all the same, you know.
Yeah. Did
And
you go to different testing centers throughout your process?
I went to two different ones. The one that I went to first and failed BEC, I chose not to go back to,
Okay.
because the way that it was run and it was just distracting. I mean,
Mm.
I don't know if people ever really talk about like, just going in and being fingerprinted and your picture taken and wanded and and
Yeah.
also having the additional distraction of 20 other people in the testing center
Hmm.
that
Yep.
and you know but I also, when I was doing just my studies, I tried to make it just like how I would be in the testing center, right? Piece of paper, calculator,
Right.
and you know, and just work through it that way so that I knew what was going on. And then also when I got into the testing center and I had the process, like I would go to or start my test and multiple choice questions. I'd
Mm.
write down the number, I'd write down the subject, and I'd just recall everything that I could remember about that subject and then attempt the question, right? And
Okay.
if I wasn't sure about the answer, I'd mark it down and come back at the end, right? But just keep pacing too, right? I
Mhm.
just had to tell myself, move on with your life. Pick an answer,
Yeah.
move on with your life, like, because
Yeah.
it's really easy to get sucked into the time. Like, time is important too,
For sure.
right?
I mean, I honestly, time management is one of the biggest reasons I think people fail, is because they spend way too much time on the MCQs and then don't have enough time for the Sims or something like that.
Yeah.
So would you say that were you usually done around 2 hours with the MCQs
Yeah.
or?
Yep. I did good on FAR. I did, like, on the last TBS, I ran out of time.
Oh, okay.
That on FAR there's a lot of documents and different things to track
Yeah.
through. So I made my best guess, and you know, um, but that was the thing too. It just, depending on, I would kind of plan like 15 minutes for each
Oh, okay.
TBS.
Yeah.
So I would I learned to start watching myself and like give yourself 15 minutes and move on, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know?
And do you feel like so when you were, preparing for the exam, how did you, since we were just talking about TBSs, how did you prepare for Sims? You said you studied them on the weekends. What did that look like?
I would just work through, the review course with those. And
Mhm.
I would, try and answer them if I could, but I also just wouldn't waste my time if I
Mhm.
didn't know what was going on. Like,
Yeah.
teaching yourself some of the tax stuff is just like, so I just hit the button and then teach myself from the
Mhm.
answer, right?
Yep.
But like I said, I would take snips of some of the questions and I'd like make little packets to review, just of different subjects like, consolidations or partnerships or different things like that, just examples. But like I said, I would do, again, I would try and mimic kind of the number of
Hmm.
testlets that I would
Yeah.
see on the exam. So I got used to the volume and the different types of them, whether it was updating a memo or answering questions or, um, you know, looking at various supporting documents and things like that. But I just got used to what that would look like on test day,
Yeah.
and see as many of them as I can. I would go until I was just like, okay, you're cooked.
Can't do any more. Yep.
Yeah, and yeah. And sometimes you wonder if that's enough, but like I said, like there is a point where it all starts coming together
Hmm.
and it's like, okay, the puzzle is coming together,
Right.
right? Like, yeah. So,
So when you were, we've talked about a lot of the different strategies that you did, but what happened when you went and took FAR? Did you pass it or
I did.
what happened? Okay,
Yep, I did.
awesome.
Yep.
And how did that feel? Like contrast that awful
Amazing.
worst day ever for BEC compared to passing FAR. It felt
Um,
amazing.
Yeah, the best high I've ever felt in my life, and one that you just can't take away, right?
Hmm.
Like
Right.
there's nothing that compares, and it encourages you to go for the
Hmm.
next one. Just keep
Yeah.
going. Like it worked, right?
And you were,
I didn't get super high scores on my exams or anything
I
like
didn't either.
that. I passed.
Yep, that's all that matters. Yep, I have no shame in saying I never scored above an 80, but I passed all of them, so I don't care.
But yeah, I there was definitely some screaming from my apartment that probably scared the neighbors and just like so excited. And it's also like FAR is said to be one of the hardest,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And um but I work in financial accounting and reporting, and so I thought, that's probably going to be the best one for me to go for,
Hmm. Yeah.
because it's what I do on a daily basis. But it also it helped me to be better at my job,
Oh yeah.
just in everything, right? Just whether it was answering questions for my accounting clerks or doing my own job, it was like I was able to apply the knowledge, ASC 42, accreted interest, and
Hmm.
you know things of that nature. It made me better at my job too. So
Yeah. And
how
I,
exciting you
I,
pass.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I felt similar when about like the knowledge that I gained from the exams. Like I was taking it while I was doing my Mac, and I actually did feel like it kind of worked together to where it helped me learn things more easily in the Mac. I felt like anyway.
Mm.
Um, and so you pass FAR, it's awesome. And you were taking them you took that in 2024, which was like the worst year ever for
Because
score releases.
but
Yeah.
then I had to wait like several months before
Yeah. That's what I
I
was
got
getting at.
my
Yeah,
score. So
exactly. When did you take it and when did you take FAR?
um, I took it in July of
Okay.
24.
Okay.
So my worst day ever at Christmas took me a little bit to get over.
I
But also
that makes sense.
I had year end and audit
Hmm.
and things like that for the organization I was working for. So, and I wanted to pass. So I think I took a little bit more time
Hmm.
before I decided to sit uh, for FAR. But I did what you guys suggested too: is get your notice to sit,
Hmm.
get a deadline for yourself or a goal so that you go, right?
Yeah. You
So
just go for
so that you go for it. But yeah, I sat. in July, and I don't think I got my score until like October around Halloween
Yeah, something
or
like that. It
something
was
like that.
ridiculous.
Um, but I got that score just before I went and sat for reg. So
Okay.
I
So that
got
was a
to,
good boost
I,
before you go into reg.
yeah. So it was like incredibly awesome to do that. But I did start studying for reg shortly after I took FAR.
Okay.
And so I took reg in November of 24. So I imagine I just took a couple of weeks off and then started
For the
just
holidays.
immediate. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's how it always was, right? Like you take, I always take a week or so off, and then I'd
Okay.
start for the next exam. But yeah, I did reg after that, and I've always kind of liked tax, but
Mm.
whoa, overload on tax and
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot for sure. Like so
so
many little numbers and rules. Yeah.
and more multiple choice questions than used
Hmm.
to be in FAR.
Yeah. FAR has the
Um,
least now.
yeah, yeah, like 25 per
Hmm.
Tesla or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I took that, and I think I got, let's see, it was November. That one was the same too. I had to wait several months before I got my score on two.
Yeah.
So, but every year at the first of the year, I create a vision board, and I have the exams on there as a goal and taking
Yeah.
the exams too. And so my goal was to get two in 2024 and two in 2025. And
And
so,
you did it.
and I did, yeah. So I took TCP next. Uh,
Okay.
and that one I took in June of
Okay.
25. My organization went through an acquisition, which took
Oh.
over my life the first couple of months of 2025.
Hmm. I can
And
imagine.
I just kind of had to set some boundaries and tell them, like, look, like, I can't work 16 hours for you because I've got to do my exams.
Oh, man.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, part of the process too is just setting boundaries with yourself, with your family, um,
Yes.
and dedicating yourself and giving it the time because it does take time, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I, I think that something that a lot of people either don't utilize or overlook is how important it is to get your people around you, your support system around you to kind of be on the same page as what you need. Like it's important. Like I think that very frequently, if you don't discuss how big the CPA is and how hard it is with people, they'll just be like, well, why can't you just, well, let's just go do this. Like you can study later or, something like that. So having those conversations with your work, your family, your
Mhm.
friends, and saying, I want to do stuff with you, or of course, I'm going to work for you, but I need to get this done as well. And kind of figuring that out with people, I think is a really good, like you said, a really good boundary to figure out and to set.
Yeah. And I had to tell my family, like, my family's in Logan, which is like an
Okay.
hour and a half north of here.
Yeah.
And, I spend a lot of time with my family, and I just had to tell him, like, look, I'm in my study bubble. I'm not going to be coming up, and don't worry. It's not that I don't want to see you, but
Yeah.
it's that I need to get these done,
Mhm.
and like if I come up here, I don't get to study. It takes the whole day, right? And
Mhm.
I need those days. And there were times where I just had to say, like, do you want me to achieve this? Because if you do, I need you to be okay with not
Yeah.
seeing me for a little bit,
Yeah.
right? So, or
And
as
it's
much.
short term.
Yeah, it's short
Once you
term.
pass, it's done.
Yeah, the sooner you do that for me, the sooner I can get things done, right?
Hmm.
So, but it was a learning curve for my family for at the first,
Hmm.
but and for me too, right? Because it
Right.
was just like, we've got to do this instead, right?
Right.
Um, you're gonna have plenty of playtime when you get done.
Yep. It's
So,
amazing how much free time it's amazing the amount of time you realize you have in a day once you start kind of having to structure it so much. And then
mhm.
once you don't have that structure, you're like, wow, I have so much time.
Yeah,
Did you feel like that?
yeah, and I'm still kind of going through that. I still wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just like, what am I
What do I
supposed to
do?
be doing? And trying to figure out what to do with my time. But I also, through each of my degrees, I always worked full time and went to school
Hmm.
full time. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, it's also just learning what to cut out to give yourself more time, right?
Yeah.
Like, when I started my Mac, I got rid of social media. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Instagram.
Good job for you.
It was just like, what am I doing that is just such a time kill, right? Like,
Yep.
yeah. So,
I
and
have
I
a
still don't have it now,
yeah,
right? Even after
yeah.
I finished, you know, but it's, yeah, I don't know what to do with all my free time. I'm trying to rebalance my life and figure that out,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
maybe join like CrossFit or something like that.
yeah, I really like Pilates.
Okay, okay.
And on the side there, I've been a Pilates instructor for about 7 years, but I let go of that part-time job to do the exams, and
Oh,
that's
okay.
what I've been doing for the last 2 years. I mean, I've done it. I enjoy being a participant and a
Yeah.
student of Pilates too, and that's something that I've been able to do on my own for myself.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's so much time. Like I don't know what to do with my time. It's
Yeah.
just like, what do we
And
do? You know?
and going back to that social media thing, like, um, this is my 2 cents, but I mean, I don't have social media either, which is funny because, I post a ton of videos on YouTube and stuff like that, but that's just for work. But I just, I'm not going to tell everybody get rid of social media forever, even though I do kind of think that. But when it comes to the CPA exams, like, it is just a monumental waste of your time
Yes.
to be on social media.
Yes.
Um, Again, I'm not saying you have to delete it, but just don't have it on your phone. Use your phone as a study tool. It will make a huge
Yeah.
difference in your life, in your whole
Pull up the
life.
app. And the funny thing was is like I got done with the exams and I was like so used to going to my phone and opening the app and doing questions when I had any free time. I was
Hmm.
like, oh, you
I don't
can
have to do
delete.
that anymore. Yeah,
So we're going through
still figuring it out.
yeah, we are going through just a little bit of a learning curve here of what to do with myself post
And
exams.
and you
But
passed
I'm
not too long ago, right? It wasn't very long ago.
yeah, I I got so I took the my last exam auditing in October. I got the
Hmm.
results November 6th, and I gave notice to my employer. I was going through a job search and gave notice to my employer, and I got the results of my exam the day before my last day. So
Okay.
my last day there was the 7th, and then I started a new job on the 10th.
Okay.
So it's
Did
just
you celebrate with people at your work, or was
um,
it just like, bye?
well, I definitely called my boss and just was screaming, but it was just such a great high note
Hmm.
to have that success and kind of close the door on
Hmm.
the core exams and the employment at the same time so that
Right.
I could kind of
Kind of just start
transition to
fresh.
my new
Hmm.
job and not have to worry about the big exams. I of course still need to take the ethics and the Utah
Oh, yeah.
laws and
Utah law
rules,
exam.
and
Yeah, those aren't bad at all.
I'm working on those, and hoping to get those done in December so I can just start next year fresh,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, I
So
remember taking those, and after taking the full exams and going to those, it's just completely different. It's not even close to the same feeling.
Well, hey, open book,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's like the
And
total
multiple
exam
attempts
is,
if you need to, like
yeah,
without paying $300 or $400 every time.
yeah.
Um,
So
yeah, I mean, you've talked about a lot of great tips and a lot of great advice, kind of just in different ways throughout this interview. As we're kind of starting to wrap up, there's a question I like to ask at some point in the interview. What
mhm.
would be the top things that you gained from Superfast CPA? Like, what were the benefits?
Oh, wow, so many. Like I said, it just taught me confidence and how to really prepare myself and to teach myself. But it also, like I said, it just enables you to do the work, right? It's
Hmm.
not like you're trying to teach everybody exactly how to do it. You've got to figure that out on your own, right?
Hmm.
Because everybody's different. But overall, just the confidence and the method of how to do it, right?
Right.
So, um, yeah, it's also great. The thing I like too is the forum that you have, and that you've got a group of like-minded people that are trying to do the same thing. And
Yeah.
so, and you can talk to each other and just kind of see that like you're not the only one out there, right? So, but there is a method to getting these exams done for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I wanted to work for Superfast CPA, was to continue being a part of this, of being able to help people find that confidence and find that way of passing these exams, and then have that community. Because I I know for a fact that it can be a very lonely journey if nobody else in your life really understands, or if you don't have that forum, that community. It can, and especially if you're failing exams, it's just crushing. It can be really disheartening. So I'm glad that you found those benefits.
Yeah. I always had my dad, giving me crap in the background saying, what if you fail? And I was like, what if I do? I was like, then I'll look at how to retake an exam and I'll do it
Hmm.
again. I was
Figure
like,
it out.
not the only one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I honestly don't know how I would have passed those exams without the method that you guys have created. It just absolutely gave a roadmap and, um, just turns on the light bulbs. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is what we're doing,
Yeah.
and it's just a test. You can do this, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
it minimized the stress, of how to do it, right? How do I
Right.
do this? So,
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, it takes something that it will still be stressful, but it makes it significantly less stressful, because you just have a way to do it.
yes.
Um, and we've talked about, you studied in the mornings, you went to the questions, you did review every day, you made flashcards and notes, you took sims on the weekends, you did all the stuff. So I mean, you did awesome, and you passed all of your exams, and you passed them all after that BEC one. You passed them all first try, right?
Yes. Yes, sir, I did.
Awesome. I mean, that's
It's
what everybody hopes
like I
for, right?
said, it's surreal. It's surreal to me, but it's like, yeah, and it's it's like I said too, sometimes it's something you need to get to within yourself of just like,
Hmm.
I can do this, I can achieve this, I deserve this, let it happen,
Right.
yeah. And like, yes, you have to give up a few things along the way, right? But
Hmm.
yeah, you'll get back to it, right?
Yeah. And I'm actually just curious. I know you were pretty busy, especially when you had that acquisition, but do you feel like Superfast CPA allowed you to still have some things in your life that could still be for you? Like, was there anything that you were like, I still have to have this? Like, I'm not going to sacrifice this.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, going up to my family's,
Hmm.
Pilates, being active, but those were all things that, you know, effectively helped me because
Hmm.
you have to have, you can't study for the exams 8 hours a day and think you're going to be
Yeah.
effective.
And not and
No.
not see any friends or family or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. I love road trips and going to the hot springs up north and seeing my family and things like that. And I did not give that up. I did not give up that completely. It just
Hmm.
became a little bit less than it was
Yeah.
before, right? I
Right.
still Netflix and chilled and kept up on, all the series that I liked, but it was also that I had studied entirely through the day, so I could have that
You could
time
relax. Hmm.
and relax for myself.
Exactly.
So I also have a beautiful Camaro that I love to drive, and I did not give that up.
No.
You can still have a life and enjoy your life and study for the exams too, you know? Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, it doesn't have to be a 12-hour study session,
Right.
right? Like
Yep.
just get it in there and get it in there every day, right?
Yep. Make
Like
it happen.
I did my very best to do that on a daily basis. Did I ever miss a day? Yeah, sometimes I did. But it's like you pick it up on the weekend or you
Mhm.
add a day, but like losing one day is very different than not having a consistent practice, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So
I mean, we've talked about that in a whole bunch of different podcasts and in a whole bunch of different things. If you miss one day every once in a while, it's not the end of the world. But do not let that derail into 2 days or 3 days. Like, don't let it continue. You've got to pick it up, just like you said.
yeah, and even if you're not feeling your best,
Still show up.
it's still, yeah, show up and maybe you get through 5 questions that day, 10 questions, right? But you still got a little bit more that
Hmm.
keeps adding to it, right?
Right.
So, another thing that I did when I would study, I would listen to brain music or memory music or study
Oh, okay.
music, 40 hertz. So, yeah, just every
And
little
did you
thing
did you
I
feel like
could.
that kind of helped you relax or helped you focus?
Yeah, that's what it's meant for. It's for
Okay.
memory and focus and relaxation. So, uh, little, yeah, kind of weird, but yeah.
Yeah, I haven't never really heard of that, but is that something that you could just get on like
It's
YouTube or
on YouTube.
Spotify?
There's
Okay.
like YouTube. There's like it's a channel called Good Vibes or whatever, and it just
Hmm.
had, activate your brain,
Yeah.
in like 10 minutes, and it just had like brain activating music, and
Hmm.
then it had like study for exams, and it just had music that was meant to help with that. I
Okay.
think it's 40 hertz. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I did everything I could to just help myself, right? Um, but it's also too, as you go along and you're listening to the audio notes and you're studying and things like that, I just find myself talking with them, right? Like blah, blah, blah. And
Yep.
blah, blah, blah.
Yep. Yeah, you get to the point where you're just like, I've heard
So,
this so many times.
yeah. And yeah, it's just, it's also just getting over the nerves on test day too, right?
Hmm.
Like, I think the biggest thing is you're like, oh, am I ready?
Hmm.
And, and sometimes I just had to say like, go give it a shot and let's see where we're at,
Yeah.
I'll help you out if we're not there, but let's go see. And I come home from exam day and obviously, I would take down my walls so that I didn't look at things anymore. But I also got out a notebook and I wrote down everything that I remembered that was on the exam.
From the exam. Oh, okay. Okay.
So if I did need to take a retake or things like that, then I would at least have a roadmap of the different subjects and the content, because there's so much of what you study that maybe isn't on the exam.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's the thing, is like you've got such a huge volume of content, but not everything's on the exam either. Right?
Mm-mm. Yep. And that's why you have to study all of it. That's why
Yeah.
you have to do the cumulative review, because otherwise you're not going to be prepared, because you have no idea what you're going to see.
But one of some of the best days that I've had is just I actually had the books from
okay.
UWorld, and I want you to know I never even used the books.
Never even touched them.
No, and I got to the point where I didn't look at the videos. I didn't look at anything. I didn't even set up my study plan in my review course. I and oftentimes I didn't even make it through all the multiple choice questions that they had. So
Okay.
TBSs, normally there's less TBSs, so I would
Yes.
typically make it through most of the TBSs, but some of the sections have 2,000 multiple choice questions, and I did not
Yeah.
make it through all of them.
Yeah. It can definitely be a lot, for sure.
Yeah.
And is there, so as we're wrapping up, just two last questions. The first one, before I ask the last question that I always ask, is, was there anything else about your study process that, before the call you were thinking, I want to talk about this, that we haven't gotten to talk about yet? Is there anything like that?
No, I think I got it all in
Okay.
there.
Awesome.
I
Yeah, and
just
I always want to make sure that, if somebody had a cool tip or an idea that they didn't get to share, that they can share it if they want to.
Hey,
But
that was my 40 hertz,
yeah, the 40 hertz. Yeah, you got to share that. That's perfect. Perfect.
And the poster boards, that just helped me a
Yes.
lot. I mean, those are probably my individual tweaks. Yeah. So, but I did really run it pretty close to the method that you guys
Mhm.
provided, and I
Yeah.
honestly don't know how I would have done it, without it. So
That's awesome. I love hearing that, and I'm so glad that I've been able to talk to you today, Mary. Now we'll wrap up. This is the last question I always ask everybody. So
Okay.
even if it's something we've already covered, already talked about, what would be your top 2 or 3 tips that you would give to people who are still going through the CPA exams?
Make a dedicated time, and if you can, do it in the morning. I do think that the morning is the best.
Mhm.
I got a lot more retention out of the things that I do in the morning. Also say learn what type of study you are like.
Mhm.
If the audio is going to help you more, then listen to the audio more, right? But and understand how to teach yourself,
Right.
right? Understand
Lear-
how to teach yourself. Let's see what else. Get it done, one and done. No,
Yeah, everybody just do that.
yeah.
That's great.
No, it's also just being patient with yourself
Mhm.
and encouraging yourself too, right? Like you've got to
Right.
be your own best friend and believe that you can do it, right?
Right. I like that, really just believe in yourself. I like
Yeah.
that phrase, the best friend thing, because you can get so down on yourself. I've felt like that at different times, where you just think you're the worst, but really, you're trying, you're doing your best, and be there for yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, you guys have a great community of people that need to hear that too, right?
Mhm.
Because I think you could study all you want, but if you don't have that belief that in yourself
Mhm.
and just care for yourself and saying and encouraging yourself, like you can do this, right? Um, yeah, you
Yeah.
got to have that best friend relationship with yourself too,
That's
for
awesome.
sure.
I
So,
love it. Well, it's been awesome talking with you today, Mary. I mean, you had a lot of fantastic tips, congrats on being done. Hopefully
you.
you'll be able to get licensed soon. Just got to finish up those last couple things right. But yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day and have a great time with this upcoming Christmas too.
Thank you so much, Logan. And thank you, you and Nate, and, everything.
All right, that was the interview with Mary. And again, I thought it was a great one. I think every episode is pretty darn good on this podcast. And I love the tips that she gave. I will always remember the giant note cards, that huge wall of note cards that she used. And I also love that she was able to, again, keep contact with her family, able to do fun stuff with her family. She was able to do Pilates, able to watch the shows that she liked, all because she had the process figured out. So if you're struggling with the CPA exams, listen to what Mary said, maybe re-listen to this episode, and go especially to superfastcpa.com and sign up for our free 1-hour webinar training. Again, it's free, it's only 1 hour long, and we will teach you the key ingredients to passing the CPA exam so you don't waste months or even years of your time failing exams. And then after that, you might want to learn more, so make sure you also check out becoming a Superfast CPA Pro member. They get access to a lot of really useful stuff, especially the Pro course. The Pro course is where Nate explains really in depth how to pass the CPA exams. It's basically a much more in-depth version of the 1-hour webinar. So check out becoming a pro member after you watch the webinar. I hope that you found this episode helpful. If you did, make sure to like it and leave a comment in the YouTube video or leave a rating in your favorite podcast app. Thanks for watching or listening, and we will see you in the next episode.